Hi students, myself Dr. R. Jairaj from Data Science and Business Department, SRMIST School of Computing. Today we are going to see about the subject computer communications and its components. So today we are going to discuss about the various components and how the communication between the systems, that means computer, has been established and how to achieve those communication. That is what we are going to see. From the diagram, we can see that we'll be having the first thing. What is the need for communication? For example, we can take the language English. So it is commonly known by everyone. So we are using as a medium to communicate with each other. Likewise, in order to communicate with the system, we need a medium. That is what we call as the message. Then, whom to communicate? For that, we need who is going to communicate and who is going to receive that information. That is what sender and receiver. Now we have sender who is going to send the information and receiver who is going to receive the information. But how these things are going to happen? That is what these three steps coming: step 1, step 2 and step 3. That is nothing but the protocols, that is set of rules and regulations how these communications to be established. These are all the contents of the first unit. From this, we are going to see about the evolution of the computer networks and how these networks are categorized and their transmission modes, how the data or messages have been transferred, and then the topologies. Topologies are nothing but the order in which order the networks can be established and how it can be working. That is what we are going to see. Let us start from the evolution. We all know generally there will be a initial start to be made for everything. Okay, then usually we had communication. We all know telephone, telegraph, lot of postal cards. Now mobile phones, everything is used for communication. But initially, if you want to transfer a file, can take a photo or can take a file of 5 MB or 10 MB. So through electronic medium, after the invention of fax, there is no proper medium for communication through this electronic material. So in that way, when internet has become very familiar, we are using with the computer system. They have generated to form a network. You can see from the diagram. See, it is nothing but a group of interconnected computers. Okay, when we interconnected these computers, how the things gonna change? See, computing and telecommunication technology, we all have computing. Computers can do, we all know that computers can do a lot of works which is more faster than the human. When we interfere this with the telecommunications and make them to communicate with each other, which means humans use these computers to communicate with each other through telecommunication networks. That is the concept of this computer communication network and how these communication has been established. See, these are all the two things. What is a communication network? It will be a set of links and nodes and then messages. These three are very important. You need to know link, nodes and messages. Now we're going to see what are these nodes and links. We can connect people and roads. People are the human, we know how they are going to travel through roads. Likewise, links will connect to the individual nodes. The links will be common to the people like a road. And you can take telephone and switches. You have for telephone, we can take the landline. Every telephone is connected to the particular link. That particular link will be connected to the switch. And computer and router, in usually in homes we are all having, I think everyone will be having the Wi-Fi modem. What it will do, now we are having a simple fiber optic cable that will be connected to the router. That single cable can be used to the telephone. So when this communication establish, some data or information which has to be transferred will be will be transferred electronically. Then what is going to be transferred? That is nothing but the useful information. Now we're going to see who are all the participants in this communication. The first one, sender, who is going to send the information, and then the receiver. Now how the sender is going to send the information, that is the main part. For that he need a link, that is nothing but a proper medium. And then the protocol, okay, it will have some set of rules and regulations, how much file he can transfer and all. Then finally the content. These are all the things needed for the transfer of a message. See, these are all the earliest evolutions. In 2400 BC, before that, courier was being introduced, and then postal service was introduced in Persia. Then, what is the main problem in that? This is what our real problem lies. The first thing is speed. It will not reach in time. There will be a lot of error, natural calamities, manual error, everything will be. Then reliability, how far the information can be believed. Then security, this is a major concern, because when we are sharing the information in a private concern, we should worry about this. Then in 1837 telegraph was finally introduced, but the coverage was only 10 miles. And then the limitation also, see, 10 words per minute. Until 1985, this was the fastest communication. This can be used in military to convey a short messages, that is to in 10 words per minute. Then these are all the various evolutions. See, twisted cables, these are the cables you can see in the diagram. Then AT&T cables, then telephonic switches. Then 1903, after the communication has been achieved in electronically, 3 million telephones has been used in US. Then transcontinental, they are going to connect the continents using these cable. Then round world call, then national numbering plan. This is how the telecommunication network has begun. That is, from a local area it has been developed through continent and then the worldwide. Now the telecommunication network is dominating the communication network of the entire world. Without communication, everything will stop. You can take the stock market as an example also. See, for this we are using the circuit switching method. This is the chronology, you can go through it. See, the global computers has been experimented with the batch processing in the 1960s, and then in the late 1960s, digital voice transmission, that is nothing but the telephones we are using, we call it as a landlines. Then when it has been integrated with the IC circuits, the first mini computers has been introduced, and then the connection, that is what we are going to see in the upcoming slides. LANs, that was introduced by IBM. This is the X2.5 technology they have introduced. Then the personal computer span, personal computers has been introduced, PC. Then they have interconnected the internet in it with the help of the TCP IP in the 1980s. And then they have introduced standard methods for the LAN. These are all the methods we are going to see: FTDI ring, token ring, bus topology, several of that we are going to see. Then the telecommunication has been given as a commercial one, and then finally it has been launched into the World Wide Web, that is common to all, in the year 1991. That is, globally it has been launched in the 1990s. From the 1960s it has been started, nearly 30 years, and then it has been evolved as World Wide Web, WWW, in the year 1991. See, these are all the categories of network, which means the types. So because when managing a large network, for example, you can take a group of people. If you can manage 5 to 10 people, you can easily manage them by monitoring. If there are more in number, when it get increased, okay, how to monitor them? For that you need some separations, or you need some methods to monitor them. Likewise, when these computer network has been established throughout the world wide web, the managing is the major task over here. So they have divided the network into 4 categories, that is nothing but your LAN, local area network, then MAN, metropolitan area network, then WAN, wide area network, then PAN, personal area network. We'll see one by one. First, LAN. In LAN connection, see, this is the bus network, okay, which means each and every single node will be connected to a standard node, and from that node they will share the connection in the bus. that connection will be connected to a bridge where the connection will be existed. If these systems need to communicate, they will transfer the messages through the link in the bus topology. In ring topology, we can consider it as a circle, which means each devices is connected to another two devices in a unidirectional mode. So what will happen is, whenever the information has been passed, it will be circulated in the network and then finally to the bridge for the communication. This is the basic idea behind the LAN. See, this is the exact definition of LAN. It is a group of computers that is connected to each other. And one more thing is, it is used only for a small area. For example, you can consider a organization, a building. It may be a three-story or four-story building or an office. The connection which is established in a small group, that is what we call it as LAN. It can use to connect two or more personal computers where the mediums have been twisted pair or coaxial cable. Then it is less costly because it covers only a less area, so it has been very less cost and inexpensive. So what are all the components used to establish the LAN is hub. The hub is the part where we are going to connect all the topologies, which means the links. Then network adapters, through where we are going to get the internet connection and route it to the network, and Ethernet cables to connect the individual systems. Now we are having a wireless connection, but before that we are using this Ethernet cables, RJ45 cable, to connect the individual system for data transfer, which means for transferring the messages. Then it provides high security. Since it is a smaller network, it can be monitored easily. Now we can see the various characteristics of LAN. See, since it is a private network, it can be established in an office or not. It is not supposed to have the other regulatory controls because it can have high speed when compared to WAN. WAN is bigger than LAN. Okay, then the different MAC, that is nothing but the media access control methods in LAN, are the prominent ones, since we are using the direct cable connections and token ring. It connects computers in a single building that works in a restricted geographical area, which means when you leave the place, you cannot access that particular network. Okay, which means when you are going for office, you can use the LAN network. When you left the office, you cannot use the network, that is geographically restricted. Then applications of LAN. See, where the LAN has been used. Once the computer has been entered into the network, okay, in LAN, a single system can act as a server, and the remaining computers, we all know client and server communication. We all know client will give request to the server and server will respond back to the client. Likewise, the same thing, a single system will act as a server and the remaining computers, we all know as clients, that will be served the request. Then coming to software, it can be stored on the server so that it can be commonly used by all the clients, so that all the clients can use the software which is connected locally to the server system. See, can then communicate with each other without any internet access. This is the main advantage, because we have formed a network of computers which is available in the particular domain. Sorry, not particular domain, particular geographical area. Then sharing common resources. If we have a printers and other electronic devices, we can connect to the entire network so that each and every system can use the electronic devices, common resources. Advantages of LAN. So if we can share the entire details, there will be no needs of printers, modem. We can share the internet connection, we can share the printing resources, the drivers, hard disks, everything can be shared within the system. So what will happen is, this reduce the cost of hardware purchases, so we no need to buy individual components for each other system. Then application sharing. If we have the software in that particular system, we no need to buy for the entire. We can use the same software with the license in the client network. then it will be very easy and cheap communication since it provides resource sharing and software applications. The data and messages can be transferred in a quicker way than centralized data, which means since we are using a server, all the data can be saved on the hard disk of the server computer. This will help us to monitor what are all the devices, which means what are all the individual devices access their network and what are all the informations they are sharing, because data is not stored on the workstation locally. That is a main feature. Then data security, since data is stored in the server centrally, it will be easy to manage data at a one place, and then the data will be more secure too. Whenever there is a need for the data, we can share the information, otherwise it will be stored in the centralized computer. And also internet sharing, if you want to add internet, you can add internet, which means the facility to share the single internet connection among all the LAN users. For example, you can take the browsing centers. There we will be having a single network adapter. From that, the RJ45 cable will be connected to all the system, so that all the systems can use a single connection, so that the expenses will also be cheaper. In spite of having all these advantages, what are all the disadvantages? That is what? High setup cost. This is the first one. Then privacy violation, because when the LAN administrator has the right to check each and every personal details of the user, so that will be a risk. Then data security threat, once they have the user ID of the LAN, they can use access the important data of the organization, because everything will be monitored in the central repository, so that has to be monitored by the LAN administrator only. That will be a security threat. Then maintenance this network, because if that system is not working properly, see, we can take the examples. There are problems of software installations, hardware failures, and then cable disturbances. So the LAN administrator is needed as a full-time full-time job, which means the network has to be monitored throughout. Then this is the major one. It covers only a small area. That is a major disadvantage. Only one office or a group of people or a particular buildings nearby. Then metropolitan area network. Man, see, we'll be having a network device. From that, the connection has been established, the devices connected to it, and then finally it will be formed into a network, which we call it as metropolitan area network. So what is the difference between these LAN and MAN is, see, this metropolitan area network, it covers a large geographical area. For example, LAN is connecting a building. If there are more number of LANs, what this MAN will do is it will interconnect all these LAN and form a single network. That is, we call it as MAN. So interconnecting of LANs into a single network, that is what we call it as MAN. See, government agencies mostly use this MAN to connect citizens and private industries. So yeah, that's the same thing. LANs are connected through telephone exchange line. These are all the protocols: RS-232, frame relay, ATM, ISDN, ASDN, etc. So what is the range? Is it has higher range. That is the major feature of this MAN. Then these are all the various characteristics of MAN. It generally covers towns and cities. Since LAN covers only the office, it covers more area. The range is about 50 kilometers. Then communication medium used for MAN is optical fiber cables, since the range is higher. Then the data rates, that also for distributed computing, which means we are connecting more number of LANs. Then applications, it is used in communication between banks in a city. For example, if we can take any other bank, so that bank will have more number of branches. They want to establish a secure communication between them. All the banks should be communicated in a single server. That can be achieved. We can use the booking system, airline reservation. Then it can be used in a college or within a city. For example, we can take our SRM institute. We are having the net ID and password to access the communication. Once we have entered, we will be connected to the server and we will be accessing the features and information. Then it can be used for the communication in the military for sharing information. Then advantages. It is extremely fast because it has been connected to overall LANs and provide fast communications. Then it provides good backbone of for WAN, which means it will be great access. Then dual bus can be helped in for transmission in both the direction, which means both the LANs have been connected and formed into a MAN. Then it can use several blocks. That is the thing, but the entire area. What is the disadvantages? More cabling. That is a major disadvantage of this MAN to establish one connection to another connection. Then system check, which means so that when we are interconnecting with these LANs, hacker can access the information through any part of the graphical region. They can present anywhere and they can try to access the data. Then wide area network WAN. See, now we can see the server workstation, and then they have been finally integrated into a network. See, you can see a single workstation here, next workstation, next workstation. When we conclude these entire network into a single one, we are having this WAN, wide area network. What is this wide area network? See, this wide area network can be private or public. Okay, so what will happen is it can be used to cover large distance, which means we can take our country or we can take our state, which means LAN, then MAN. LAN will cover the building, MAN will cover the city, then WAN will cover the state or the entire country. It is more bigger than MAN. When the network has been getting bigger and bigger, it will be difficult to design and maintain. That is the major problem. Then the communication used by WAN is public telephone network or satellite link. That is what we call public telephone, PSTN. Then WAN operates on low data rates considering the speed. Yeah, these are all the various examples of WAN. You can take the mobile broadband 4G. I think now 5G has been launched, but 4G network is widely used across the country. Then 5G is coming upwards. Then how this communication has been established, which means that telecom companies used to provide internet services to the customers, okay, through their mobile phones or their personal connecting devices, and then from their home they are using the fiber optic cables. Then private network, the bank provides, it connects to the various branches, and then they can be used as a single particular line. If they are using a private line for their purpose, it can be a private or public, both can be possible over here. Then various characteristics of WAN. It generally covers large distances, states, countries, and continents we have discussed. Then advantages, it covers the more geographical area. See, if the branch of our office in different cities, for example, if you are working in Chennai, then your office in Mumbai, we can connect the system through WAN, but it is not possible in your LAN or MAN. For that, we need to have a less line connection to the another branch. Then maintaining of data. In this LAN, MAN, and WAN, the data has been maintained centrally. So we do not buy the mails or files or backup or servers, since the data has been centralizedly managed. Then update. Software companies work on the live server so that the programmer get the files within seconds, so they can be distributed overall. Advantages. The first one is exchanging of messages. You can take the web examples, WhatsApp, Skype, Twitter, Facebook. It will allow to communicate with each other, to can share the information and all. Again, the same thing can be used for sharing of software and resources. Resource in the sense both hardware and the software. Then global business. We can see, you can take Amazon and Flipkart. We can sell and buy like that. We can do global business over with the help of these WAN. Then it will provide high bandwidth. It will provide more connection facility, so that this high bandwidth, the data transfer rate which it takes, increase the productivity of the company. to enter into the global market. These are all the disadvantages. Since the network is getting bigger and bigger, we'll have security issue, which means we have to protect the data which has been transferred through the internet. Then that is what we are installing these firewalls and antivirus software. What they will do is when it is transferred into the internet, so we have to protect the data from the hackers. So these firewalls will inject the virus into the, sorry, when the virus has been injected into the system through the network, these firewall will protect. This antivirus software will remove the threat, then high setup cost. To implement a wide area network, we have to use more number of routers and switches, since we are covering a larger area, which means a state or a country. So these routers and switches has to be more in number. It covers large area, so the problem is difficult. Troubleshooting problems, we have to find the error first and then we have to rectify it. Then personal area network. For this personal area network, you can take your hotspot also an example. See, the single connection from the system has been shared with everyone. You can take the Bluetooth or Wi-Fi, everything. We can form a network. See, it is arranged with an individual person. The distance is 10 meters. Okay. For that also we need a sender. The receiver may be connected to the network, but he has to be in that particular range. It is used for connecting computer devices for personal use. See, Thomas Zimmerman, he was the first one to introduce this personal area network. So already we have LAN, MAN, WAN. Now this personal area network. What is the why? Since we are having many, so if you want to share the connection between the devices, we are having two or more or electronic devices. If you want to share the information between them, then this PAN is suitable for you. See, it covers an area of 30 feet, which means we can take a entire house. These devices have to be developed in that particular area network. It can be any electronic device, laptop, mobile, tab, or media player, or PlayStation, whatever it may be. See the examples. For area network, a mobile network moves with the person. When a person moves with his mobile phone, the network will cover it. See, suppose that person establishes a network connection, then that connection to the another device will share the information. So that connection will be in a moving. That is why we have mentioned that 10 to 30 feet. Then for offline also we can use it. So it can be used as a home network. It is used to integrate. We can say Alexa, play the music, like that. We can integrate the home network. So we can use the number of devices which has been, see, printers, computers, televisions. If they are connected to the internet or not to the internet, we can form them into a single network through these routers, and then we can able to control them with a single connection. Then small home office. It is used to connect the variety of devices, which means the internet, onto a corporate network using a VPN. That is nothing but virtual private network. These are all the various examples of PAN. Then now we have data transmission modes. We have discussed about the transfer. Now how these data has been transferred, that means the messages. See, when the connection is established, the data has to be transferred from one device to another device through a transmission mode, which has to be decided, which means the transmission mode decides the direction of data, where the data needs to travel and reach the receiver system. There are three categories. One is simplex, half duplex, and full duplex. See, right? First we start with simplex. See, the direction of data. This is very important. One way communication. Which means in simplex the data will be transmitted into one direction only, which means from one system to another system. The sender device sends the data and cannot receive it. On the other hand, the receiver will receive the data and cannot send it. It is a one-way communication. The sender can only send the data and the receiver can only receive the data. For the best example, you can take television as an example of simplex mode. The broadcast signals, the television networks, telecom network broadcast a signal. Will that signals will be received by the TV. That is nothing but the antenna or dish what we are going to use, but it will never send back the signal. This is a unidirectional transmission example. Then these are all the various advantages of simplex mode. See, the full capacity of the transmission medium is only one way, cannot have traffic issue. Then disadvantages is no bidirectional, which means either they cannot interact with each other. Two devices cannot communicate with each other in a simplex mode. That is a major disadvantage of this simplex mode. Then half duplex. See, this is the next one. In half duplex communication, transmission can be done in both ways, which means if the two systems are connected with each other, they both can send and receive, but one condition, not at the same time. For example, we can take these two systems, system 1 and system 2. System 1 can communicate with system 2. System 2 can communicate with system 1, but not at the same time. If system 1 is transmitting, system 2 has to be wait. After receiving the information, and then system 2 can transfer the data to the system 1. Yeah, that's the same thing. Sending data to the other devices cannot send the data until it receives the data which is already in the transmission. You have to wait. Then the radio communication device, what we are going to use, the walkie-talkie, what they are going to use is one has to wait till the communication end and then they will use the same line for the communication. See, they can send the message and say over, the message has been transferred, and then the other person on the uh, other end will receive the information and then he will start communicating after he received the over message, like we do on the mobile, we say hello like that. These are all the various advantages and disadvantages. See, both advantages is both the devices can send and receive data. Then the bandwidth will also be limited, can be utilized only a single signal transmit. The disadvantages is they cannot send and receive data in the same time. Okay. Then this causes delays, which means the person has to wait for receiving the information. Then full duplex communication. In full duplex communication, first we'll be having simplex, then half duplex, now full duplex. In full duplex, both devices connected can send and receive the data simultaneously. We can take the mobile phone as the best example. When we are speaking, the other one will listen, and they are speaking, we will listen. Both the devices can send or receive the data at the same time. Advantages: there will be no lag or delay for sending and receiving information. Then the bandwidth utilization is also used for a same sending and receiving data at the same time. So the usage of bandwidth will be very high, very high. Then network topology. These are all the various topologies we are going to see. One is point to point, mesh, star, bus, ring, and hybrid. First, point to point connection. See, there is no interconnection between them. A single point to point connection has been established. This is mesh, fully connected mesh. See, advantages: each and every system will be connected to in any other system. It will be have the individual links. It will be privacy has been offered. Then it is easy to identify the fault. But the disadvantages is it will require more number of cabling. Then the port has to be in more number. If you want to shift the network, it will be very difficult for us in a mesh. Then star topology. See, Here we'll be having the centralized hub. From the hub, the devices will be connected with the individual link. From those links, they will share the information to the hub, and then the hub, and then from the hub, the data will be transferred into the network. Then star. See, only one input port, then cabling work will be also very less since all the connection has been routed to the hub. It is easy to install again. Then robustness, it will provide more security. Then it is easy to identify the fault since the cable are very less in number. Then the disadvantage is single point of failure, which means if a single system has a failure, there will be no communication for that device. So the more cabling should be needed in this star topology. Then bus topology, as we have discussed already, it's like a tap. See, every individual system is connected to the main line. That is nothing but your link. The nodes will transfer the connection from the link so that the information can be shared between the systems. See, the cabling will be also very less. It is very easy to install. The main problem is it is difficult to modify, which means if you want to change the connection, it will be a little difficult. Then it has to be difficult to isolate the fault. Then if there is any break in the bus, then all the communication will be stopped. Then ring topology, it is in a circular mode. See, A, B, C and D, everything will be, each and every devices will be connected to another two systems so that they can transfer the messages in a ring. See, it is easy to install, then easy to identify the fault. Since it is connected to the two devices in a unidirectional way, you can easily find out the error when transferring the messages. If it is not received, we can find out from the link. The main problem is if that system 1, 2 and 3 and 4, if one wants to communicate with 3, so there will be a delay. It has to cross over 2 and then it has to reach 3. There is no direct link. So the break in the ring stops also the transmission. Then finally the hybrid. See, this is what we are using now. The router modem will be having more number of ports so that we can combine both ring, bus topology, mesh topology and everything, and then we can able to connect it to the modem, and then modem to the router. We can use the same connection. See, the number of ports has been listed over there. It can be connected. That is what hybrid, a combination of all your point to point mesh, ring, bus and every other topology can be combined into a single one. These are all the comparison. See, bus, ring, star and mesh. When we combine all those three or four, we can form the hybrid network. Bus network can be used, the performance will be small. See, ring can be implemented in small or large. Star, the same thing. The cable requirement length for bus it will be less. For ring also the same thing, but star and mesh it requires more cables since it have individual connections. The traffic will be also very less in bus, but in ring topology the traffic will be high. In star it is medium. Mesh each and everything have an individual connection, so the traffic will be very less here. Then data flow efficiency. Data flow efficiency will be more in bus. It can be more or less depending upon the connection. Then star it is also more, again more. Then failure. In bus it is easy to solve. The ring also the same thing. If it is very difficult, which means it has to be access point. When we have to find access point and then we have to solve it. Easy to solve except hub and switch fails, which means if hub and switch fails in star topology, the entire communication will fail. In mesh also it is easy to solve since it is an individual connection. Cost wise, bus will be very low, but ring high, then star also high, then mesh also high. Now we have covered the various basics of communications. I think hope now you all have an idea about evolution of network, how these communication network has been established, and then the network categories, what are all the types of networks and how these networks evolve, and data transmission mode, how the data has to be transferred between these networks. Then topologies, what are all the hierarchies these network followed by these network for transfer of data. Thank you. We'll have further discussion. Thank you.